So this is a big boost for the city of Los Angeles.
Once the East Reservoir is completed later this year, construction will begin on the West Reservoir. The parkland's restoration will take several more years. It's a project that will bring better water quality, more recreation opportunities, a better environment, and more jobs to the City of Angels. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
The Parklands restoration phase of the project will be part of the LA River Revitalization Plan. The reservoirs will serve all of LA, but primarily the areas of downtown and near the zoo. New federal grants could equal a big boost for aerospace and manufacturing in our region. As Gil Reyes reports, Southern California receives special consideration to compete for money thanks to an effort co-led by USC.
LA Mayor Eric Garcetti congratulating his partners at the University of Southern California. They've secured rights to compete for grants that could be a home run for Southern California aerospace and manufacturing.
We're there at the plate, and we're swinging for the fences. And today's announcement is the result of us being loud and clear in Washington that we're serious about jobs here in Los Angeles.
President Obama is setting aside $1.3 billion to kickstart aerospace and manufacturing in the U.S. His office has selected Southern California to be among 12 U.S. regions eligible to compete for grants. The selection follows months of lobbying from the office of LA Mayor Eric Garcetti and USC.
I'm glad we won.
Yeah.
Now we can really get on with the work we all want to do.
The City of LA and USC are part of a consortium made up of over 80 organizations, universities, businesses, government, stretching from Ventura to San Diego counties. Partners like Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena could apply for money to enhance robotic space exploration, while LA community colleges could use the grants to boost workforce training programs in advanced manufacturing, something the mayor strongly supports.
I want to make sure that Los Angeles is ready for the jobs and the economy of the future.
In hopes of taking the region's job opportunities to the moon and beyond. At USC, Gil Reyes for LA This Week.
Other regions selected to compete for grants include Chicago, Milwaukee, and Portland, Oregon. And the mayor is also setting his sights on making Los Angeles a leader in the tech field. The city kicked off its first Internet Technology Forum at City Hall. Anna Marcos has more.
City leaders are inviting cyber nerds to start hacking.
Not long ago, the term hacker held a wholly negative kind of connotation. Here today, we are in City Hall, and we're encouraging you to hack. Your job is also to bother us, to prod us, to poke us, to disrupt us, and to shake things up.
This was the first ever Tech LA 2014 forum. As part of the event, Mayor Eric Garcetti hosted a so-called hackathon. The city is opening up its government data to Angelenos with the goal of partnering with them to create new technologies.
We know Los Angeles is the best platform for innovation, the highest rate of entrepreneurs in the country, more than 1 out of 200 residents. We know it's the most diverse place on the face of the earth, the best geography, the best weather, the most incredible intellectual and creative capital. But now it's time for government to do its part.
Think about the hundreds or even thousands of companies who are using open government data today. You've got companies like Zillow and Trulia who are helping you make better informed choices as you buy your home.
Students work together to come up with functional apps for everything from improving their communities to encouraging more civic engagement. Prizes for best apps ranged from $1,000 to $3,000, awarded by such sponsors as Google and the I Am Angel Foundation.
We want to make sure that our young people see their potential in technology careers, that they're not just playing games, but they're coding games. They're not just on Snapchat, but they're building the next Snapchat.
We need you. This city needs your talent. This city needs your imagination, and this city needs your creativity.
LA was reportedly the birthplace of the internet. City leaders are now doing everything they can to keep it the leader in the cyberspace frontier. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
In case you're wondering, it was at UCLA in 1969 where it was believed that a student typed the first message on what was the precursor to the modern internet. Luxury lofts, new restaurants, and public transportation are all helping to reinvent downtown LA into a thriving and livable community. Rasha Goel takes us to the Reinventors Award, where some of those responsible for the transformation were recognized.
It's taken over a decade, but downtown Los Angeles has gone from gritty to glitzy. With new housing, entertainment facilities, and more public transportation options, downtown was recognized by Dwell magazine as America's most successfully reinvented metropolis.
Downtown really was not a place that everybody thought, oh, I can't wait to move downtown. Like you would say, can't wait to move to downtown San Francisco or Chicago or New York or Boston. Well, now you can say that.
4 honorees, including the LA City Council, were recognized for their contribution in reinventing downtown LA. Faye Washington, president and CEO of YWCA Greater Los Angeles, was honored as well. The new 7-story YWCA building on Olive Street serves 1,200 disadvantaged youth, providing not only a place to live, but schooling and job placement.
My dream came true. Just to see those kids walk in and out of that facility is just a pure joy to me.
Honoree Klein Financial Corporation was recognized for bringing upscale housing to downtown.
Robert Klein's company develops luxury apartments such as this one in downtown Los Angeles called Met Lofts and provides an affordable component, giving everyone an opportunity to be able to live in downtown LA.
We reserve at least 20% of our units to provide a step up to families working to secure gracious living.
And there's no question, downtown is the place to be. Officials say in 1999, there were 18,000 people living downtown. Today, there are 54,000 and growing. In Los Angeles, I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
Carol Schatz, CEO of the Central City Association, was named Mother of Reinvention for bringing together individuals and companies to turn downtown into a vital and thriving community. Closing a loophole in the city's attempt to shut down illegal pot shops. $50,000 in reward money is paid out to a tipster in a murder case, and Congressman Henry Waxman gets a proper send-off in City Hall. These stories and more in City Beat.
It appears that a list of potentially illegal medical marijuana dispensaries operating in the city was not shared with those in the city responsible for shutting down such shops. The issue was discussed during a city council committee meeting recently. The list in question belongs to the Office of Finance. It's of pot shops registered to pay taxes to the city. Out of the nearly 1,000 dispensaries on the list, more than 800 registered with the city after the September 2007 cutoff date approved by voters under Prop D, aimed at limiting the city's pot shops. Councilman Paul Krikorian has asked finance officials to provide the list to the police department and the city attorney's office for enforcement purposes. The city council often offers reward money in hopes of solving murders, kidnappings, hit and runs, and other crimes. But seldom do we hear of that reward money being claimed. But Councilmember Bernard Parks' office announced that a $50,000 reward payment was awarded to someone who came forward with a tip on a suspect that eventually helped solve the 2011 murder of Alonzo Esther. The suspect, Dennis Brown, has been sentenced to 16 years in state prison for the killing. Parks released a statement saying, "The awarding of this reward proves that if you know anything regarding a crime, please call the authorities. These rewards do get paid out." Lovers of public transportation, listen up. The Board of Airport Commissioners has approved new flyaway bus service to and from LAX for Santa Monica and Hollywood. The buses from Santa Monica will be nonstop to LAX, located at the Santa Monica Civic Center. Service is expected to begin mid-July. The Hollywood Flyaway service will be located on the east side of Vine Street, half a block south of Hollywood Boulevard, and will make one stop in both directions at the Metro Expo Light Rail Station at La Brea. The Hollywood service is expected to begin in mid-September. One-way fares for both flyaway bus routes will be $8. The LA City Council honored retiring Congressmember Henry Waxman during a special council presentation at City Hall. Waxman is completing his 20th term in Congress. To recognize him for his contributions as a public servant, council members Paul Koretz, Mike Bonin, and Bob Blumenfield named Friday, June 13, 2014, as Henry Waxman Day in the city of Los Angeles.
I am a born, bred, lifelong resident of LA, and I've had the great distinction of being able to represent our city in Washington, D.C. So this recognition means a lot to me. And to have a Henry Waxman Day at City Hall is a great tribute.
Cutting down on pollution, finding funding for transportation projects in LA, and the Affordable Care Act are a few of what Waxman says are his proudest accomplishments.
2 graduating students recently received a big surprise. This after surviving a fatal bus crash on their way to Tora College. Rasha Goel has more.
For Banning High School students Karen Duarte and Jonathan Gutierrez, this graduation is one they may never forget. The 2 are survivors of the Humboldt bus crash in April of this year that left 10 people dead, including 5 high school seniors from the Southland. Students were on their way to a college tour at Humboldt State University when their bus collided head-on with a FedEx delivery truck on Interstate 5 in Orland, California.
Thankfully, they survived, and did not let the crash impede their goal of going to college.
Duarte and Gutierrez think they're receiving their diplomas, but they're leaving with a surprise from Councilmember Joe Buscaino and the nonprofit organization ShareFest.
We are making a commitment to you and offering and presenting with them a scholarship of $5,000 each, so that you ensure that you fulfill your dream.
The audience responds with cheers and applause. Both students will be attending Humboldt State University in the fall. I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
In this week's list of things to do, an early Independence Day event, Latino and Asian food fusion, and an exotic animals show for the whole family.
Kick off the Independence Day holiday early at the Port of LA with a visit to the 6th annual Cars and Stripes Forever car show on Friday, June 27th from 5 to 10 p.m. It takes place at Swinford Street and Harbor Boulevard in San Pedro. In addition to more than 100 classic cars on display, the free event will feature live music, a beer garden, food trucks, free rides on the red car, and dancing water shows at the Fanfare Fountains. Fireworks start at 9:20 p.m. Go to lawaterfront.org for details. Food Fusion takes center stage on Saturday, June 28th at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, otherwise known as La Plaza. Asian influence in Latin American cuisine dating back to the 1560s will be examined by Art Bites' Maite Gomez Rejon in Chino Latino Food Fusion from noon to 3 p.m. at La Plaza, which is located at 501 North Main Street downtown. Participants will have an opportunity to sample foods and take part in a docent-led tour of Chinese American Museum's LA Heat exhibit, which examines the impact of sriracha and tapatio hot sauces in Los Angeles. Admission to Food Fusion is free for CAM and La Plaza members, $5 per person for all others. Go to lapca.org for details. And on Sunday, June 29th, the Skirball Cultural Center is holding its Zoo to You event in its family amphitheater. You and your kids will get to sing along with performers, dance to music from around the world, and rub wings, scales, and claws with live exotic animals. There is one show at noon and another one at 2 p.m. Children must be accompanied by an adult. The Skirball is located at 2701 North Sepulveda Boulevard. Information on ticket prices can be found by going to skirball.org. And that's a look at some upcoming things to do.
If you're looking to keep your kids busy this summer, your local pool may be the perfect solution as a free swim program gets underway. Yana Kay reports.
For these kids, swimming is one of the best things about summer. And to help keep them in the pool, Kaiser Permanente has kicked off its 9th year of Operation Splash,
where we can have swimming available to kids, where they can come and exercise, where they can come and have fun with their friends, and it's just a great way to spend summer.
Kaiser Permanente Councilmember Mike Bonin and Department of Recreation and Parks officials announced the free program at Stoner Park Pool in West LA.
That many don't realize that this department was really founded on 2 things. One was playgrounds and the other was swimming. And they've got a great tradition of aquatics here in our department.
As part of Operation Splash, Kaiser Permanente gave the Department of Recreation and Parks a $265,000 grant to provide free swim lessons for children and adults at Los Angeles City pools. Experts say activities like swimming help kids stay entertained while helping fight childhood obesity.
That's so important for kids to have fun while they're being physically active.
Kaiser Permanente officials say they are committed to promoting healthy living for all LA residents, and Operation Splash is the perfect way to meet that goal. I'm Yana Kay for LA This Week.
The pools will be opened through Labor Day weekend. And that's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ellen Chang. A reminder that you could catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll leave you now with more sights and sounds from the King's Victory Parade downtown. See you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
Ever notice how we no longer focus our attention on one thing at a time? We don't just walk or even just drive. We focus on so many different objects, we don't notice the dangers ahead of us. We're a distracted society. We're blind to the importance of being safe, to the things that really matter. Blind to the things that could actually save our life. We're blind to everything surrounding us. Be aware. Move with care. Watch the road.
There's more you can do to prepare for the next major earthquake in California. Don't fight a brick. The brick will win. DareToPrepare.org.
Hi, I'm Renee, representing for Juventus from Van Nuys. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35, our city, our channel.
good morning. It is June 24th, and I'd like to welcome you to your Los Angeles City Council meeting. This council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m., and you're all welcome, and we've got a pretty good crowd today. Madam Clerk, I do believe we have a quorum. Could you please call the roll?
Blumenfeld, Bonin, Buscaino, Cedillo, Englander, Fuentes, Huizar, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Martinez, O'Farrell, Parks, Price, Wesson. 10 members present, a quorum, Mr. President.
First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Parks moves, Price seconds. Next.
Committed to resolutions for approval.
Martinez moves, O'Farrell seconds. Next.
Mr. President, today is Tuesday, and now be the time for the flag salute.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. All to rise, and I'm going to ask Mr. Price to lead us in today's flag salute.
Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Price. Madam Clerk, let's run through the agenda.
Items 1 and 2 are items notes for public hearing.
Cards.
Cards on item 1.
Okay, let's prepare to vote on the item 2. No specials on that, so let's prepare to vote. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, let's move on to our next section, Madam Clerk.
Items 3 through 26 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Members, specials, Mr. Buscaino.
Item 13, please.
13, let's hold 13 for Mr. Buscaino. Mr. O'Farrell.
Item 22, Mr. President.
22 for Mr. O'Farrell. Members, any other specials? I do not see any. Let's prepare.
Mr. President, excuse me, item 26, special for Paul Koretz.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. President, also for item 23, there's a motion is required. You wish to hold that item?
Let's hold that for now.
And also for item 7, I believe there is a substitute ordinance. Would you like to hold that item?
We'll hold that one as well. Let's prepare to vote on the remaining items. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That brings us where?
And, for the ordinances, Mr. President, those orders will be held over for 1 week unless we consider with 12 members.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Today we may be able to get to them. So that brings us again where on the agenda?
Items 27 through 30 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes required for consideration.
Okay, so without objection, those items are now before this body. Mr. O'Farrell.
One more on behalf of our colleague Paul Koretz, item 29.
Okay, we're going to, per Mr. O'Farrell's request, we're going to hold item 29 for Mr. Koretz. Okay, members, any other specials? I do not see any.
Mr. President, yes, there are cards on all items.
Okay, so then we'll just hold all of those. That brings us where?
On the supplemental agenda, items 31 and 32 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes required for consideration.
Okay, so without objection, those items are before this body as well. Cards?
Yes, cards on both items.
Okay, so now that brings us where?
Mr. President, that brings council to presentations or items called special.
If I could ask my dear friend and colleague Mitchell Englander to take over the president's chair, President Pro Tem Mitch Englander. No applause, please, Mr. Herman.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I have a treat. At least it's a treat for me and a lot of individuals that live in the center of the greatest city of Los Angeles. And I have with me And I'm going to ask women of the 10th District Steering Committee, give me some love. Some of you, no, I will take that, okay, because I'm shameless. But no, I think maybe some of you should come up here with me, if you would. Come on, Connie, Madam President, we have some commissioners. Yeah, anybody, oh, I love it. Oh, that's the way to start my day. No, I know that. We have, so whoever wants to stand, and Joan, you're fine. Mr. President and members, in the office of the 10th Council District, almost 40 years ago, a council member by the name of Dave Cunningham, who all of us know, had a conversation with a young lady that many of you might know. Her name was Maxine Waters at the time. And they had a conversation about creating an organization, a group of young, vibrant women in the community that, number one, could be the eyes and the ears for then Councilman Dave Cunningham, but they have evolved to be the conscience of the 10th District. They decided that they needed somebody from the staff to be the point person, somebody to be the quarterback and pull it all together. And I'm joined today by Geneva Cox. Let's give Geneva a round of applause. Who was then the district director for Councilmember Dave Cunningham. This group quickly grew, and they had events in City Hall throughout the 10th District. And I'm proud to announce today that they're going into the celebration of their 40th year. There's nothing that they have not done, not for themselves, but for the young people in particular in the district that I am blessed to represent. For years, they have had toy giveaways and Easter programs that they do on a yearly basis. And more importantly, if I could add up every scholarship that they've given to young people from the 10th District to help them move on and complete or start a college career, if I just had $1 from every one of those scholarships, I would probably be in Hawaii right now. First class. But this is an organization, like I said, that started out just being the eyes and the ears for the 10th District. You have individuals like Miss Cox, who's to my left. Her daughter, I mean, it's kind of like a rite of passage. We have nieces of the founders and daughters. My mother, God bless her, God rest her soul, was a member, and my wife is a member. We have, just to name a couple, we have Gail to my right, a commissioner for the Area Planning Commission, and somewhere behind me there's a very tall, elegant lady named Rosa Russell, dressed to the nines, an extremely good dancer. But tomorrow, I believe it is, will be appointed to, is it Human Relations? Yes. So these are individuals that have a track record of being active in the community and giving back. Again, this organization that started out small, they have an annual luncheon where they do awards and they acknowledge individuals from the community for all of the good work that they've done. Somebody just tapped me. I don't let me forget her. I'll get back. See, I was on a roll. I was rolling.
We're hearing about the luncheon.
I was rolling. But anyway.
You can keep on rolling.
Keep on rolling. This annual luncheon and awards ceremony that they give, you can go, members, and you might find, hear me, 7 other elected officials from all over the state. This organization is just not in my district. I can tell you I've been there with Yvonne Burke, Diane Watson, Maxine Waters, Reginald Jones Sawyer, Mike Davis, Mark Ridley Thomas, Karen Bass, and the last 2 years, first our mayor-to-be, Eric Garcetti, last year the mayor, and you'd see all of us there at the same time, and I think what that does, and Holly Mitchell, Senator Holly Mitchell, I think what that does is just shows the respect that everyone has for this organization and the influence that this organization has. Seated to my left with a pretty little hat on, not my wife, but is Joan Jackson, who has, I'll give Joan a round of applause. Joan is like your clock. You know, you can set it and it just keeps on ticking. And you can count on her. But anyway, what I wanted to do was just maybe surprise a few, but give them recognition that they rarely get. Yeah, they are my eyes and ears, and I depend on them. But I think they're the conscience for my district, and I think they have a great influence on the entire city of Los Angeles. So with that said, I would like to present to them, and Miss Trudy, make sure I don't drop this beautiful framed resolution signed by the entire council. This is for 40 years of service and dedication. Behind me, surrounding me, are some of the greatest public servants, unsung heroes that this city will ever know. Can we give the 10th District Women's Steering Committee the round of applause that they deserve? I'm going to call on the president to say a couple of words, even though I do apologize, Madam President, I took your time, but I got carried away. Connie Thomas, give her a round of applause. The mic is yours.
On behalf of the 10th Council District Women's Steering Committee, I would like to thank our Councilman President Herb Wesson and the entire City Council, the Mayor, and all of those of you who work so hard for the City of Los Angeles to make this a better city. We do appreciate all the things that you do, and we consider ourselves a part of the teamwork that goes on here at City Council and City Hall. So again, we thank you very much.
Wave your hand. This is Pat. No, I'm not looking for a last name. I just want to say that this is Pat, who has been around as long as I can remember with Geneva, and you really have not aged a bit. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, the 10th District Women's Steering Committee.
Let's give them a big round of applause. Fantastic, thank you.
I'll let you know when their next luncheon is, and hopefully I'll have some council colleagues there with me.
And
thank you so very much.
Mr. Wesson, thank you so much for bringing them here and recognizing them. It's truly spectacular, the legacy, the history, the involvement. And, you know, behind every decent man is an entire steering committee of women that we really appreciate. So thank you.
Thank you, Mitchell, and I'm blessed. Let's take some photos in the back.
Okay, let's go ahead and take up item 1 if we can then. And we have cards. We have 1 card. We're going to go ahead and reconsider the ordinances first, number 5, 6, and 8. So without objection, let's go ahead and actually vote for reconsideration. So we'll open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
Ayes.
Okay, so those items are before us now, colleagues. So we'll go ahead and open the roll. No speakers on the queue. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Great. And then we'll go ahead now and take item 1. Actually, Mr. Walsh, if you want to come on up, you've got cards on 1, 27, 28, 29, and 30. So we'll put your time on the clock.
That means 5 minutes. Okay.
You got it.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org or at J. Walsh Confidential, or tweeting at Hollywood Dems. Come and see what's there. It will shock you. Number 1, Building and Safety Department liens for nuisance abatement. Again, you're doing an excellent job. Sometimes, remember, when you do an excellent job, I'm the first to praise you, and when you are evil, I'm the first to condemn you. Number 27, these are the devil amendments. Anytime you see the word exemption from chair and member housing committee, what that means is that a politician has paid off one of the city councilmen, and the law that was passed, the ordinance was passed, is being gutted. Here it has to do with provision of low and moderate income housing. We have the worst history of low and moderate income housing in the state of California. Go back east, go to New York and see how easy it is to get an apartment outside of Manhattan. Come here. And I just wanted to say that if you are in low-income moderate housing, you can. A lot of it is not kept up to code. In other words, the city's housing is not kept up to code. REAP, as we know, that's again rogue landlords. If you have anything in your house, if you need a paint job, they have to paint your house. If you haven't had a paint job in 5 years, you go to the city, and the city tells the landlord, if you don't get their rent until you paint their house. Number 29. This is Koretz, O'Farrell, and Ferrantes. This is the state legislative program to support AB 2403. We want you to know that the city and the state are in bed together. You know, once you termed out, you end up here on the city council. Koretz, the state legislative program, they are trying to bring back the CRA. The reason the city had a big surplus this year, it never had a surplus this big to stand on until the CRA was abolished, and the taxes are now flowing to the city and the school board that went to the bloated CRA. People laughed. They said we'd never destroy the CRA. It's gone. Now, the next one, number 30, concerns trees. The deodar trees on Los Feliz. $5,000 from street furniture, which is being switched to trees. Fine, great. But Mr. O'Farrell, and this is Mr. O'Farrell and Labange don't seem to give a damn about the trees on Hollywood Boulevard, which are dying. Take a picture. I'm going to put a picture on my website of what the trees looked like 5 years ago and what the trees on Hollywood Boulevard look like now. I mean, we need these trees so the gangsters can hide behind them and sell narcotics. Actually, they don't really need to hide behind them. The sidewalk is cracked, the Walk of Fame is cracked, the trees are cracked, but I'm glad that people in Los Feliz, Western Avenue, and Riverside Drive are going to get $5,000 worth of tree repair. We're not getting it in Hollywood. Stay tuned. I will rip the lid off the ceiling when I talk on the public comment. HollywoodHighlands.org, Jay Walsh Confidential, blog, or at Hollywood Dems. I'm Twittering right now, HollywoodHighlands.org.
Great, thank you very much. So on those items, Madam Clerk, if we could open the roll, except with the exception of 29. Open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Great, thank you very much. With that, I think we'll go ahead and take items 31 and 32 next for cards. And that's Herman on both of those. 31 and 32.
And Mr. President, for item 31, motion 31A has been circulated.
Okay, and that's before us as well.
Mr. Speaker, will you please address me as Mr. Herman, sir? I deserve it. I am a constituent of California. 31 now reads, and I'm going to take it from the specifics of this agenda because for 1 minute, watch this, folks. Consideration of mitigating negative declaration communication from our Vice Chair Planning and Land Use Management Committee. Site plan review for property located at 2700 to 208 48.5 Nordhoff Street, which is in the valley, folks, not in our Chinchorro neighborhoods, to mitigate negative declaration. For what? To increase 50,000 square feet of non-residential floor area for the proposed construction of 3 retail buildings. Like we need more buildings. We need work in California. Neil Kashkari for work. But I'm sticking to topic and going into this. Retail building totaling of 17,200 square feet for light industrial building totaling 111/577 square feet on a 321.741 net square foot vacant site location. Of course, I'm only going to keep this down to 3 minutes. I'm almost at that. And then point 32 regarding equipping residential assistance living for nursing facilities. I'm all for it. However, $15,000, at what course of action have the stakeholders of the neighborhood council object to the refinancing for this renovation? California Statewide Community Development Authority is a bond. Keep it within the restrictions of the bond. For we, the public, have spoken. We demand action and a course of action to keep transparency and neutralize ineffective waste and abuse to these projects. And I still got 2 minutes.
Okay, so 31 and 32, and the amendment has been circulated. Seeing no speakers on the queue, if we can open the roll, tabulate the roll, and close the roll.
14 ayes.
Great, thank you. 23, I believe. Mr. Koretz, you wanted to just move that item?
Yes, I want to move the Personnel and Animal Welfare Committee report, and I know if there are questions, LAPD is here in the audience to answer any questions.
Okay, so that item is before us. There are no speakers on the queue. So we'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Right. Mr. O'Farrell, are you ready on 22? And Mr. Kretz?
Just wanted to ask that item goes forthwith.
Okay, that item can go forthwith without objection. That'll be the order. Mr. O'Farrell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, beginning in the 1970s, the city began providing support for murals with an emphasis on youth engagement, first through the establishment of a citywide mural program in the Department of Recreation and Parks, which at the time was run by now acclaimed muralist and distinguished UCLA professor Judy Baca. Is Judy here today? There she is. Last year, after years of community and stakeholder meetings and numerous revisions, this City Council adopted the new mural ordinance, helping to preserve existing murals and providing a registration process for the creation of new murals on private property. The first registered mural under the new mural ordinance was produced by Pacoima Beautiful in CD7, the clean energy themed mural at the Pacoima Community Center. Yes, that deserves a big round of applause. Right before the adoption of the ordinance as part of the fiscal 2013-14 budget deliberation process, the Budget and Finance Committee, actually this is 14-15, appropriated $1.75 million to the unappropriated balance for use and maintenance of our murals that, like our streets, need to be maintained, and instructed the department to report back on the allocation of this funding for the production, restoration, conservation, and presentation of our murals, one of our most treasured historic resources. The money was placed in the unappropriated balance to be expended once the Department of Cultural Affairs drafted and presented their proposal on usage. This is what we have before us today, colleagues, a bifurcated proposal due to funding issues at a funded rate of $750,000. My office directed the department on June 3rd, when the item was sent to committee, to split the program into two phases as the revenues rolled in throughout the fiscal year, and begin work where it is needed most on the murals that we need to protect that are at greatest risk. And we have here our acting general manager of cultural affairs, Matthew Rudnick, who has done an exceptional job on this as well. Thank you, Matthew. If you'd like to say a few words. Yeah, and they deserve. Yeah, I know. He's good.
Thank you so much, Councilman O'Farrell and City Council. This is a big day for us. The first big step last December was the adoption of the mural ordinance, and today you'll be allocating funding for the first time in about a decade to help support primarily historically significant murals that were previously city funded. So we'd be happy to take any questions. I'm joined by my colleague Felicia Filer, our Director of Public Art, who has done a tremendous amount of work on this report in partnership with the Mural Conservancy of Los Angeles, with Spark, and many other stakeholders. So we're very happy to be here, and we want to thank you for your leadership, Councilman O'Farrell.
Thank you, Matthew. Any questions, colleagues? No?
Mr. Price.
Yeah, I'm excited for this this motion to be acted on as well. It certainly is I think, an important part of economic development as we talk about the mural program. You identified some that had been city-owned, but you said not only city-owned or city paid for murals are going to be restored. Is that correct? How are you selecting others?
Sure. So the original report, what we did was we looked at previously city-sponsored murals that were actually funded primarily through the Neighborhood Pride program. Many of them are culturally and historically significant, and a study that was done a few years ago identified them and ranked them as such. There are plenty of murals outside of the murals on that list throughout the city, on private property, on schools, other walls throughout LA. And so what we did was we broke out funding. We identified murals, some of which are kind of urgently needed of restoration, given that property owners have given 90-day notice to paint them out. So we do need to be quick in our restoration of those. But then we also set aside about $300,000, $20,000 for each council district as kind of discretionary funds to fill in the gaps and be used to really meet the needs and priorities of each district. So that's the first tranche of money that will be available, and we'll be working with each council district to meet those needs.
All right, thank you. Mr. Huizar.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you very much, Mr. O'Farrell, for shepherding this. And, when we adopted the mural ordinance, or when we were workshopping it, one of the things that often came up was, what are we going to do to maintain the existing murals? And as was mentioned by Mr. O'Farrell and our staff, LA had one of the most robust mural programs in the country, and that's how we became to be known one of the mural capitals of the world. And if we are going to reflect our values that we have in this city in terms of us claiming that we are an artistic city, that we value the arts, that we value our public spaces, that we value encouraging our young people to get more involved in the arts, our budget should reflect that. And maintaining our murals is one way we can do that. It's very unfortunate that we have some of the most world-renowned public murals, and yet we are not doing our job in upkeeping them. So I would hope that while this is a start, and a step in the right direction, and Mr. O'Farrell is cutting down the jungle to make our path for us to get to where we have to get, that we will continue to find more innovative and creative ways to fund this. We all know that when we looked at the mural ordinance, we saw so many people just come out, so excited about the city finally doing something to reclaim what we were rightly known as in the past. We do want to I did want to ask that if each council district would get some portion, which really, that's one mural if you think about it, or less, right? These things are. If that council district does not use the funds, does it roll over, or will it revert back to some other fund or the big fund and then be redistributed?
Council member, it's actually recommended to roll over, so it'll be available should you not spend it in the fiscal year.
Because sometimes there's some bigger projects, needs more funding, et cetera, or you could use it and keep accumulating. Okay, absolutely. Sounds good. This is a great start. Let's do more on this. Thank you, Mr. O'Farrell, and thank you to the advocates and everyone who keeps pressing us to do more. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Seeing no other speakers on the queue, did you want to close?
Take this opportunity to compliment Felicia Filer for your amazing work on this. I know you did so much of this behind the scenes, working closely with my staff, Star Parsamian, and David Hiron, and also our colleagues, Mr. Jose Huizar, Corinne Price, and Gil Cedillo for their leadership and their passion about preserving our murals. And also, to my right is the former executive director of Pacoima Beautiful, way back when I met Nuri, back in 07, 08. So there's quite a legacy of an appreciation of the arts and our murals in the city of Los Angeles around this horseshoe. So thank you, and I recommend an aye vote. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Seeing no other speakers on the queue, we'll open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Congratulations. That will be sent
forthwith, please.
Forthwith without objection. Great, thank you so much. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and take item 7, the ordinance.
Am I on here? There we go. Need to make a technical correction to the T Committee report. So I'm going to move to amend the Transportation Committee report to substitute the recently amended ordinance for the ordinance on file. It's a small correction that just makes clear that you can continue to use segways on the bike path, but not on Oceanfront Walk. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And with that, we'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Great, thank you very much. And the next item
Mr. President,
is, yes.
Can we forthwith on that?
Yes, forthwith without objection. The next item is 26. Public comment was already held. So 26 for Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, our drought keeps getting worse day by day, and we're already well into using our water reserves. The best case scenario with the Bay Delta Conservation Plan is that in 15 years we'll have a source of water. And this year, with the modest snow in the Sierra Nevadas, we got almost no water. We could be in that position later after spending 15 years and a lot of money. We'll still be on the hook to pay for it, but we won't necessarily be getting any water from it. So I believe the best way to ensure LA's water supply is to clean up our San Fernando Valley aquifer and do it now. I'm pleased that we were able to work up a comment letter that does not take a position on the BDCP, yet it conveys the city's needs and concerns for funding our local water supply. And I'm okay to move that comment letter forward today. But before we take any position on the project itself, we need to see the fully independent cost-benefit analysis that I requested from DWP and the ratepayer advocate but did not get. Instead of the same retread of talking points funded by big agriculture and big oil and their special interest money as proponents of the BDCP. If this is truly a project that's worth looking at and worth the significant financial expense to our ratepayers, we need to open the doors and let the sunshine in. Today's council agenda says it best, unquote, no fiscal impact statement has been submitted by LADWP. Neither the CAO or the CLA has prepared a financial analysis of this report, unquote. If we lock ourselves into funding the BDCP, and make no mistake, the Westland Water District and the Kern County Water District want us locked in as their financial backup. If we lock ourselves in, we may not be able to afford the local water solutions that we so desperately need in order to build and ensure a real future for us in terms of reliable water. So I ask us to be cognizant of that, and thank you, and ask you to move this item.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Fuentes.
Colleagues, this resolution instructs the Department of Water and Power to submit comments to the state of California on the Bay Delta Conservation Plan, the environmental impact statement, the environmental impact report, as well as the implementing plan. So Mr. Koretz is absolutely correct. It does not offer a position on BDCP because it'd be inappropriate to do so at this point. This is just a draft plan. It's also important for us to remember that we should be participating in this process because, colleagues, as Mr. Koretz stated, we do have challenges with water. I mean, we do know that we are in a drought, and we do know that we absolutely have to remediate our opportunities here in Los Angeles to increase water supply and reliability. But let me just share with you a little bit of information here about where we are today. In 2010, the Urban Water Management Plan said that 24% of the water supply in the coming decades is projected to come from the Delta, which is to say that there is a plan in place now that was restated by the mayor to more than halve our reliance on the Bay Delta for water. That's incredibly important. But nonetheless, if we were absolutely successful, we are still going to necessitate about 24% thereabouts of the water from another source. And so that's after we've done everything that we need to be doing here to increase our water supply. So I could not agree more with Mr. Koretz and with the mayor and everybody else that we've got to fix our water supply problem. But we're going to have to account for the more than 3.5 million people that will join this city in the next 25 years. We're going to have to account for the absolute need that we have and obligation to be able to give reliable, sustainable, clean sources of water, and that's after we've done everything that we need to be doing. So this action today simply makes it so that Los Angeles is on record. And it's on record to acknowledge that in a year like this, Los Angeles has had to purchase more imported water because of the drought. And I think it's an acknowledgement that we have to do more to solve those problems, but there is no way, colleagues, that we can't get around having to deal with the need for water and making sure that we're doing not just what we need to by our residents, but also to do the right thing by California. Another benefit here that is not often mentioned in this proposal is the co-equal benefit of making sure that we're restoring the ecosystem in California, making sure that we're bringing the Delta back to what it was. And at some point, we'll have to talk about the Salton Sea, because as Californians, we need to make sure that we're doing the best that we can to tread lightly on this great state. So this measure simply lodges those comments. It's an important thing that we do, and I urge and I vote.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much. And with that, there are no speakers on the queue. We'll go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Great, thank you so much. Carries as well. We'll go ahead and take it to item 13 for Mr. Buscaino.
President. Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I want to briefly walk you through this item to give you a bit of history on what led to the creation of this website we're providing today and where we see this program going down the road. Nearly 2 years ago, in response to community concerns regarding facilities near residential areas that store large quantities of hazardous and flammable materials, the Public Safety Committee held a special meeting in my district where we called to the table all the various regulatory agencies that play a role in overseeing these facilities and making sure that they're in compliance with the law, all law, this local, state, and federal law, and that they are operating in a safe manner. Following the meeting, where we received testimony from state, city, federal entities responsible for ensuring public safety, the CLA's office was tasked to draw up in response, a report examining the past motions and reports drawn up in response to the community's concerns, and taking into consideration the role of the City of Los Angeles plays in enforcing state and federal laws and regulation, make recommendations to improve public safety and awareness. The report noted city agencies were doing their jobs. However, there was a missing component. And what was missing was a mechanism to better inform the public over what role the city plays in monitoring these facilities. And in response to this report, I authored a motion that called for the creation of a new website that would explain the regulation in a simpler manner while showing the current compliance status of the facilities that we are all required to keep a close eye by the state regulations. I want to thank the fire department for putting together this site, in particular the Fire Prevention Bureau and all the city departments that spent a better part of the last 9 months on working on this website to better inform the public what's being done to keep them safe and making sure that the facilities are tasked, they are tasked with monitoring are in compliance with the law. So I want to thank the entire city family, the fire department. I know a number of you here that crafted and put this thing together. I ask for an aye vote and want to approve, Mr. President, if we could send this forthwith. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And seeing no other speakers on the queue, we'll open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That'll be forthwith without objection.
Can we do also 17 forthwith, please?
17. Yes, that's a grant. That'll be forthwith without objection as well. So with that, if we can please go to item 29, held special by Mr. Koretz. Mr. Koretz, did you actually wish to speak on that, or you just wanted to call it special?
Yes, I did want to speak on it. I just wanted to point out that AB 2403 is vital because it not only helps us address the drought, but it helps us address the as Bureau of Sanitation testified in our budget hearings, the $8 billion that we're on the hook for in the next 20 years. $8 billion for stormwater cleanup. And so this allows local governments to have the clarity of knowing that water sources such as stormwater and reclaimed water will be exempt from Prop 218, and this will allow us to more easily fund some of the cost of this $8 billion nut that I think we're not paying enough attention to, that we will have to crack over the next 20 years. So this is a very important piece of legislation for us, and I ask for an aye vote.
Great, thank you very much. Seeing no other speakers on the queue, we'll open the roll. Mr. Fuentes, just in the nick of time.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz, for bringing that measure forward. The measure, there's an update, has gotten out of both houses, and it's before the governor. So if we could figure out how to communicate to the governor's office that we're urging the signature on that, I think that would be helpful.
Great, thank you very much. That'll be well noted. With that, please open the roll, close the roll.
13 ayes, 1 no.
Great, thank you. That carries as well. There's a request to carry item 16 forthwith. That'll go forthwith without objection. Yes, Mr. Kretz.
And this last item, number 29, as Mr. Fuentes noted, this is to influence the governor, so this needs to move forward quickly as well. So forthwith.
Okay, that'll be
super forthwith, if such a
that'll
thing
be
exists.
Forthwith without objection as well. And that takes us to general public comment. And if you can line up in this order. Antonia Ramirez. Antonia. John Walsh. Followed by Herman. The other two speakers can get behind the second set of ropes, please.
Thank you.
Jose
Today,
Martinez and Brian Barajas.
Today calls for elaborate birthday celebrations of these two brilliant cosmic personalities. First is the eighth wonder of the world, a political giant of the 20th century, and put Mexico on the map and advocated to Mexico that we should respect and encourage freedom of speech. And he is mi expresidente Vicente Fox de la República Mexicana. He will celebrate his birthday on July the 2nd. Feliz cumpleaños, mi presidente. And the second is the ninth wonder of the world and the political giant of the 21st century. He was endowed with supersonic brilliance and the galactic flair of speech to the most minutia of details in any given subject matter. This wholesome white man, the Honorable ex-mayor of Anaheim, Kurt Pringle, will celebrate his birthday on June the 27th. Kurt Pringle was a legendary public servant for the people, to the people, who refreshingly and genuinely coined the term freedom-friendly Anaheim. And he welcomed every speaker with his crown of integrity, honesty, courtesy, full attention, uncensored, kindness, honor, and human dignity. Moreover, his contagious personality, along with political jokes, aided creative solutions to the few unresolved city problems that made Anaheim leap to the stars in prosperity, public safety, police department, and other ground tourisms, and made vibrant trade and commerce, and made wonderful, greater contributions to Disneyland and the entire Orange County. Yes, both these public giants have been blessed with the Midas touch and an eternal spark of life, for they have shared their greatness with all of us. And God bless Mayor Kurt Pringle of Anaheim and Vicente Fox, President of Mexico. God bless the United States military. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have John Walsh at the mic.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. I don't think I've ever used the profanity, the bad word that our mayor used on television when at the big hockey celebration. We have a class here of children. I would like the mayor, and I just want these children to understand, the mayor said a horribly bad word that you might get your mouth washed out with soap if you said it in front of children. And you know what the mayor of Garth said? He said, it's okay now to use dirty words in front of children. As I've said before, when my brother used that word to my mother, she literally washed his mouth out with soap. Now, he doesn't. The mayor has an adopted Chinese child. He doesn't say it in front of them. Herb Wesson threw somebody out, Zuma Dog, for using that word, that F word, and as a result, you spent $650,000 on his lawyers, and so it was a real big deal to use the F word here, but now it's okay to use, the potty-mouthed bisexual mayor says it's okay to use that word. Now, 4th of July is coming up. There's going to be a big fireworks celebration at Grand Park. I expect the gangs to be out there, and I expect huge amounts of rioting because the LAPD is fighting a turf war over who runs things over there. Now, Inspector Liga used a very, very bad gay slur, fruit. He used that concerning homosexuals, and apparently our two gay members here do not fear that they're okay with being called fruit. It's no longer politically incorrect to call gay people fruit. And as far as Liga is concerned, he murdered Kevin Games, a black officer, and he bragged about it. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you, Herman. You're up.
Mr. Herman. Herman, for the record. I deserve it. In
Thank
my
you, Herman.
hand is a doggy bag. In my hand, and I won't tell you what's in it besides poo-poo. But 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 44 seconds on Friday, June 20th, Mr. Krikorian and you, Mr. President, Englander, said, as you stated for the record, we are distracting, we are juveniles, I behave childish. Is this a result of extreme disruption of our behavior? Is it nonsense? Is it nonsense? You're nonsense. Because as Socrates would say, thousands of citizens were deprived of their rights, property, and either banished from the city or executed. Executed. So in my demise, I hold every one of you accountable for my demise. Because politically correct, I am a juvenile. And I stand by the name of Socrates and Plato, my founders of my education and the education of our youth to grow and become the next. So I say to you again, Credo, we owe a cock a syphilis, do pay it. Don't forget, 399 BC. However, Plato says, all the gold which under or upon the earth is not enough to give in exchange virtue. Not one of you have virtue. Not one of you. Because as I speak today, Mr. Weezer and his nonsense of graffiti and Mr. Krikorian crying about graffiti, you asked for it, you got it. Now we're going to have graffiti art. We're going to have graffiti parties. So that's how it be. Again, this is why I carry my bag of poo-poo for you, all of you that represent us. Thank you.
Thank you. Jose Martinez? Not here. Brian Barajas?
Well, sticking on the subject, our republic was meant to destroy Aristotelians and to prevent monarchies. The comment made by Herman was correct. We are Platonists. We are Socratic. The minute you lose that thinking, that connection to God, you begin to see the effects. And now the effects are due. Tony Blair will be removed, obviously, for being a war criminal, along with Barack Obama for being war criminals. And the people who ever supported these individuals, whether they know it or not, just like on Nuremberg, you will behold to the law of this land for not, I repeat, for not coming to the aid of your republic. It's a big idea, but you were deprived of it, and it is my job to cause people to be people again. You have been lied to by this administration and the Bush administration along with Dick Cheney. Ever since Kennedy was murdered, people have become destituted, deprived, ignorant. And at worst, it's become to the situation where we are at the brink of World War III. The only way to stop it, like Lyndon LaRouche has been insisting, you throw the British Empire, but the empire that Socrates was murdered because he was too much of a human being. So we need to throw it out.
Great, thank you very much. That concludes general public comment. Do we have any announcements from any colleagues? No announcements. Do we have items for posting and referral?
Yes, Mr. President. Council has motions for posting and referral.
We'll go ahead and post and refer those. And do we have any adjourning motions, colleagues? We have one adjourning motion. If everybody in council chambers can please rise for adjourning motions, including the guests, please. If everybody can please rise for adjourning motions. Mr. Koretz, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's with great sorrow that I adjourn in remembrance of my friend Paula Kent Meehan, who was a wonderful champion for animals as well as a tremendous business person and community leader. She passed away yesterday peacefully at the age of 82. A nearly lifelong Beverly Hills resident, she made a lasting mark on the business world with her innovative entrepreneurship as founder of Redken Hair Care. Setting an example for aspiring female entrepreneurs everywhere, she was named among the top 50 women business owners by Working Women magazine, #1 on the Los Angeles Business Journal's list of women-owned businesses in LA for 4 consecutive years, Woman of the Year in California's 42nd Assembly District in 2003. She also recently acquired the Beverly Hills Courier newspaper. Additionally, she's made a deep impact on her surrounding community through all of her philanthropic work with the Wallace Annenberg Center for the Performing Arts, the Beverly Hills 9/11 Memorial Garden, Woofstock and Pets 90210, the Pet Care Foundation. And I actually worked with her on an attempt, which she would have entirely funded, to create a West Hollywood Beverly Hills animal shelter, although that didn't ultimately work out. She was an incredible philanthropist, did so much good for so many different causes, but especially always loved animals. And the city of Los Angeles, the city of Beverly Hills, and everywhere she had touched will mourn her passing.
Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Huizar.
Yes, thank you. I didn't respond when you asked if there are any adjourned motions initially, so thank you very much, Mr. President. And colleagues, it's with heavy heart and some sadness that we announce the passing of Lou Santillan, who is the father of Eddie Santillan, who many of you know that works in our garage. And Lou Santillan was an incredible activist in the community of El Sereno, the East Side. When we heard about his passing, many agreed that Lou Santillan was the epitome of someone who unselfishly gives of himself to the community and sets an example for the rest of us. I'll read a little bit about all he has been involved with to feel the extent of that. He passed away on June 20th, and in the 1970s, he served as president of many El Sereno organizations, including the El Sereno Action Committee, the El Sereno Optimists, the El Sereno Coordinating Council, and the El Sereno Chamber of Commerce. And he was named honorary mayor of El Sereno by El Sereno's Bicentennial Committee for 2 consecutive years in 1974 and 1975. He served as a field deputy for 14th Council District Council member Art Snyder from 1977 to 78, and for former Council member Richard Alatorre in 1985, and again till 1996. From 1979 to 82, he was a field representative to former Senator Alex Garcia, whose district included the El Sereno community. He was born on February 19, 1935, in the Chavez Ravine community of Los Angeles. As many of you know, this is a community that was displaced for the building of the Dodger Field. And he was the founder of a group, Los Desterrados, meaning the uprooted. And he served as president for over 28 years, reminding people of what was once this great community that no longer exists. He brought together the former residents of the Chavez Ravine for an annual picnic every year in an effort to maintain the sense of community among those displaced in the 1950s as a result of the construction of Dodger Stadium. He is married to Elodia, who also passed away, survived by Louis Jr., Susan Stiles, Edward Santillan, who also happens to be honorary mayor of El Sereno from 2009 to 2012, and John Santillan. He has 4 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren, and I will certainly deeply miss him. Someone when I was on the Board of Education and kind of taught me the ways of the El Sereno community with consensus commitment. And although it's a very small community in the northeast part of Los Angeles, it's a very patriotic one. It has one of the largest 4th of July parades in the city of LA, and they celebrate 4th of July with a huge bang. But Lou Santillan was behind many of the activities there. Just a huge heart, huge commitment. And also, every time he'd see me, and I'm sure Ms. Martinez would appreciate this, he'd say, "Arriba Zacatecas." He had some roots from Zacatecas. I will certainly miss him. really guided me early on in my political career in terms of getting in touch with the community and how important it was, although many of us make decisions up here in downtown, how important it was to stay involved in the community and get to know the neighbors and every issue that affects them. So we will certainly miss a great one, a man with a huge heart, Lou Santillan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cedillo, your button was pressed as well. Did
Yes,
you want to
let me add my condolences to Lou Santillan. He served this city well for many years. He served the city well for many, many years, and his son is a great public servant as well. I want to make a historical correction, though, that those who were removed from Chavez Ravine were not removed to build Dodger Stadium, but in fact because of a housing project that was being developed. Fred Wilkinson was the lead on that. And then when the politics of the time period changed, the housing project was dropped, and then subsequently the Dodgers came out and it was built. It's a very famous case of people being forcibly removed from their homes, but we should be clear about the purpose, and it was for a major housing project. Mr. Wilkinson was later red-baited. It was during the McCarthy era, and then that project was dumped. And so subsequent to that, the Dodgers moved in. And I say that just for the historical accuracy. I pushed the button because I want to note that there's a large attendance here today from the Los Angeles Coalition Against Wage Theft. This morning, my colleague and I introduced a motion against wage theft. That will go through the process now, and they're here, and I think we should acknowledge them because they've come here. Wage theft is a prevalent problem of the city. It takes place in many ways. Some people aren't paid minimum wage. In some instances, some people aren't paid overtime. And in some instances, people aren't even paid for work that they do. And it costs the city millions of dollars on a weekly basis, up to billions of dollars on an annual basis. And it's very important that we acknowledge their presence because they're central to our service economy, and they are also residents of this city. And I just wanted to acknowledge their presence.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair.
Seeing no other adjourning motions, we have a request for item 2 to be sent forthwith. That'll be the order without objection. I'd like to remind everybody to be safe out there, treat people with respect, and we are adjourned. Thank you.